We are live, ladies and gentlemen. So
Let's do this.
I know um, this is a surprise to you guys that I'm actually doing something that's not gaming, but I'm doing a thing with my homie Jerome. This
Hey.
is a new series that we are starting called Teachers in Quarantine. A wonderful idea that we actually came up with like a month ago, but just never acted on it. So that's a thing. Just to kind of give you guys a brief overview of what Teachers in Quarantine is going to be. Teachers in Quarantine is going to be a lifestyle podcast featuring myself and Jerome as we talk about all of our ventures and all of our experiences as black teachers in this country in our respective districts. And we're going to be talking about some lifestyle things, some things related to teaching, so like slash education slash lifestyle slash whatever is going on in the world that we deem as important. And so we
Yep.
hope that you guys enjoy our pilot episode of Teachers in Quarantine. My
Hey.
volume is low. Avedon says my volume is low. Hold on, let
Oh,
me
let
see
me
if I can
see.
fix it. I think my mic is as loud as it can go. But I could get a little closer to my mic if that's what you want. So, yeah, so this is our pilot episode of Teachers in Quarantine. We hope that you guys enjoy us talking about like just some real life adult type things. So, before we go ahead and get into the topics, I'm going to let my friend Jerome introduce himself. And we're going to go ahead and get into it. So, yeah.
All right. Hey y'all. I'm trying to look at my actual other screen. Sax Rebel HD Jerome. I've been, around Nia for a few years. I'm a teacher along with her and a musician, and a dad. So me and Nia have been talking about kind of doing this and dropping this heat for a while. So I'm glad to be here.
Yeah.
I think she has my Twitter on there. So follow me on Twitter. I tend to talk a lot on Twitter. So for sure, Bald and Bougie, Ball Gang.
For
What
sure.
up?
For sure, for sure. You know, you made the transition from hair to bald so seamlessly. I don't know if you guys remember Jerome, but he had or he still has that he doesn't frequent a YouTube channel called Sax Rebel HD. He made gaming content and he used to have like dreads and then he cut the dreads off and like now he's rocking the bald and I'm like, okay, friend, what's up? I love it.
Yeah. It's been 5 years since I cut my hair. 5 years.
Yeah, I love it. I think it makes you look like a whole ass grown man. You feel me? I love
Yep.
it.
It's funny because I was talking to somebody about it. I was like, when I had my dreads, I looked like a kid. And if I still had my dreads, the one thing I
I
wanted
love it.
to get was a septum piercing. That's the one thing I wanted was a septum piercing for my dreads. And I was telling her today, I was like, I can't get a septum piercing now, but I still have my locks. I would have a septum piercing. I don't think being bald with the septum works, but
Yeah,
it worked with hair.
yeah.
But yeah, I still have my locks too. They're in a bag.
Oh
And
wow.
I don't know what I'm gonna do with them.
You
I could
should
give them to
donate them.
charity.
Like it's like
That's
to
what I was
make a
thinking
wig for
about.
somebody who has like cancer or something.
That's what I was thinking about. Because at first I kept them because they were like a reflection of like that part of my life.
Yeah.
Back when I kind of harbored a lot of emotion and feelings, but now since I'm kind of growing into myself as an adult and I'm getting into my 30s, those things that kind of I felt about that were related to my locks, I don't feel as strongly about.
Right.
So I kind of just have them, and I'm like, maybe it's time to throw them away. But maybe I'll look into donating them. I'll look and see if there's a company that will take them.
Right. I feel like that would be a good look, honestly. So, y'all already know who I am, Nia, the video game her. But this podcast is not about my gaming. It's about me, and the big part of me that is not gamer is teacher. And I feel like sometimes I like to talk about topics like this, but sometimes it's not always topical. You know, especially when you're in a gaming community and there's already so many other topics and things to talk about and stuff within the whole gaming realm of things. But like the good teachers that me and Jerome are, we're going to start our podcast off with good things. And I know, especially if you are a black person in America right now, if you're just a person who has empathy in America right now, it's not so easy to talk about good things. But we're going to try our very best to tell some good things and kind of bring some joy to you guys as we have these conversations with you guys today. So Who wants to start? You want to start? I want to start. What do
You can start. Go ahead. You can start.
All right. So good things. So good things happening in my life right now are, well, y'all know, in light of current events, which we'll save a space for that in this conversation. So in light of current events, like I've just been kind of like sad and kind of in a state of mourning, just like the rest of a lot of you guys are. But one of the things that has been a good thing for me is that yesterday I went to the park, and I know it sounds so simple, but I went to the park with my sister and her children, my niece and nephew, yesterday to get some sun. And honestly, I needed that. Like, I needed to get out in that sunlight and like experience nature and be with the people who love me and I love them, and spread that love, you know what I mean? So that was very cathartic for me. Just being able to enjoy nature and realize that no matter how sometimes I feel like life crushes us, like there's still beauty to be, there's still beauty in this world to behold and to appreciate, like your family, like nature, like the sun. So that's a good thing for me.
Right. Shall I pick up the? Mm-hmm. Okay, so 2 things for me, good things. The first thing you might hear during the podcast, but for the first time since quarantine, 2.5 months, I've been able to spend the weekend with my boy Chase, my 7-year-old son. Because of the quarantine, me and Mom decided that we didn't want him moving around, especially since I live in a high impact area of COVID. Mm-hmm. I'm really close to Washington, D.C. So even though I wasn't working and I wasn't as worried about contracting COVID, because I literally stay in the house unless it's, work, unless it's work or the grocery store. We just thought it was best that he would stay with Mom because she wasn't in the area where she was as worried. Yeah. So I've been spending the weekend with him. We've been gaming, and we went to the playground. We've just been chilling out. And then, of course, I've been doing work with him, but, the fun stuff. So that was one. Secondly, you already know, I picked up a new job. I was teaching in one district in the same state. And now I'm moving to what will be my dream job in another district starting in September. It's a weird time to be, getting a new job because of what's going on. But I'm excited to, me moving on to a place I always wanted to be and teach at because I was a student there. So hopefully not many of my friends are watching this, because then that would be a complete giveaway. And I haven't announced it yet. I haven't put it on social media.
Ooh.
So y'all heard it here first, folks.
Yes, I'm so happy for you. Oh, my God.
Yeah, you've been watching that journey. You've known, like, even when I was, a sub at the school and everything. So you've really seen me in the trenches with that.
Yeah. I'm happy for you, bro. All right, so we're going to go ahead and delve deeper into this. I know you guys are pretty curious about Jerome's job and what he does. So our next topic is what content we teach. So since I was first for the last topic, go ahead and tell the people what kind of content do you teach?
All right. So for my content, do we just the content?
Yeah. We're gonna do what content we teach, and then we're gonna talk about. We could do double. We could do what content we teach, and then kind of delve into our teaching process and how we got our cert and all that good stuff.
All right. So my content is music. If Sax Rebel HD, as my YouTube name didn't give it away, my Twitter name used to always also have something music related, but it doesn't anymore. I am certified K through 12 in music, instrumental, and vocal. Even though I don't sing, don't ask me to sing. I can't do chorus really.
We need to get on here next time. We need to get the homie Jamal on here because he's a choir teacher.
Yeah, and he's I added him after you had introduced us, and he got some awards going on. He's doing the thing.
Yes, he got Teacher of the Year this year.
Yeah.
Like, hold up. In his district, he got Teacher of the Year. I'm like, wow. Yeah. That's awesome.
So I'm certified K through 12 music. How I got to being certified in teaching music. Right now I teach middle school also. Originally, well, Nia, you've known me way back when.
I've known you since back when you were in fresh in college. You hear me?
Yeah.
I knew you. Me and Jerome have been friends for almost 10 years. If it hasn't been 10 years up to this point,
it's not quite 10 yet. We got 2 more.
Yeah, we go back.
Yeah. So around the time Nia had first met me, when I first got into the community, with people, I was a freshman in college, and you might know my freshman status. I was a music education major, and I went to school in Florida. And for me, my path wasn't so linear. It took me 7 years to get through undergrad, or 6 years. And because I had Chase at a young age, he was born when I was 20, I took a semester off and I transferred schools. And when I went to my new school, Morgan State, go Bears, historically black college.
Hey, let's go.
When I transferred to Morgan, they didn't have a music education program. They just had a music major. So I majored in music and I got my degree in 2017. I still wanted to teach though. So what I did, as soon as I graduated, I enrolled into a master's program, my master's in teaching, which what it basically is instead of going through an alternate certification program or being an education major in undergrad, you have the option to get your master's and take all the certification requirements at the master's level, pass your praxis, and fulfill your graduation requirements. And then once you're done, you'll be all lined up to be certified with a master's degree and get master's degree pay.
Oh, that's legit.
So
I don't think it works like that here in Texas. Maybe it does, and I just didn't do the research.
So when I entered that program in 2017, I was a substitute teacher, and I was subbing while I was doing my classes. I was in different kinds of classrooms. When I got to my second year in the program, I got hired as a full-time teacher on a conditional certification. So what that basically is that if a school really wants you, or if a school or if a district really needs teachers, they can offer a certification on a conditional basis. Basically what that is that they can say, we'll give you all the rights and privileges there of a fully certified teacher, or not all of them, but most of them. The caveat is that you may not get the same pay, and that you have X amount of time to get your full certification, or basically you're going to, I don't want to say get fired, or you'll be released.
Yeah.
So the good thing is that I was in my second year of my master's program. Now, that year is also known as your internship year. And so usually, and I guess Neil will explain that more in depth, is that you wouldn't work while you're in your internship. But I lucked out because I was teaching in a classroom and I was a full-time classroom teacher with a conditional certification. My program allowed me to teach in my classroom and fulfill all my certification requirements. So
that's tight.
So my second year, I taught as a full-time teacher, and I was getting observed like multiple times, by my principal, administrators, and my mentor teachers. And that's how when I finished that's how I got my certification. I was able to be fully certified. And I really lucked out because, Nia, you're going to tell them in a second, a lot of teachers don't get to have the experience I had where you could be a full-time teacher and interning. So you're making bread and you're not struggling. You're not worried about what's going to happen.
Yes.
So I was really
blessed.
Yeah. So I was just really blessed and fortunate
Yes.
in that situation, that circumstance. Because a lot of my friends and even here will tell you are not lucky, are not as lucky. So my teaching path was pretty linear, but it was definitely a little unorthodox compared to most other teachers because I didn't get that internship experience. So I kind of missing a lot of things, I think, in terms of teaching. Like I don't have all the answers that some people would have of, because in music, when you do your internship, you do a part in elementary education. So you're dealing with the little babies, K through like 6th grade, and then you do a part in secondary where you do 7 through 12. And I did all of mine in the secondary level. So when it comes to like when you're in the elementary classroom, I'm not lost, but I don't have that experience. I could make it work. I know how to do it.
Right.
But did I get that experience in my internship like most would? No, I didn't.
Right.
So I have my pros and cons with how I did things. But teaching was always my calling. Teaching was always what I wanted to do. I don't think we have on here why we wanted to teach, but
yeah, you can say that too. Like, why did you want to start teaching?
I wanted to teach I hope I'm not talking too long, but I wanted to.
This is what this is for. This is a pilot episode. People need to know like our background. Why do we call this stream Teachers in Quarantine? They need to know what's up.
So I got into teaching. I grew up in Baltimore City, Maryland, and Baltimore is known for being one of the quote unquote most violent cities in America. It's up there with the Detroits and the Chicagos and wherever you want to, you want to name. I'm pretty sure there are some places in Texas that got the rap too, for Nia. So for me, I never knew what I wanted to be when I was younger. But one thing I always remembered when I was going to middle school is that in second grade, I had my first black male teacher. His name was Mr. Linden. Rest in peace. He died a couple years back due to some health conditions. And I remember him giving our class, we were in second grade. He taught us so well, and he had us so receptive. He had such a good relationship with us. And I remember this. I remember all this stuff, and I'm putting the pieces together as an adult now that we were doing fifth grade level math and sixth grade level math to second graders.
Right.
So he was challenged to fifth graders, and we were doing like multiplication, long division, like fractions, and we were like beating them. We were mopping the floor with them. He would like he would set up these challenges with the other teachers and were like, hey, if y'all beat them, I'll give y'all an ice cream party, or I'll give y'all all $5 or something. And we were beating them. Like, we were doing math on fifth grade level. And so that always left an impression in my heart.
Yeah.
I never knew if I really wanted to be a teacher, but another thing that changed my life was in eighth grade, I joined the band. And I think I've told you my how I joined the band story. There was a girl that I liked in the band in eighth grade. She played flute. And I joined the band to impress her. And I got rejected. But I liked playing flute, so I kept playing it and I kept learning. I was a fast learner musically. My eighth grade band director was an evil, short, bald man. Like, oh dang, that sounds like me. God.
Stop it.
My teacher called me a short, evil, bald man. I'm pretty sure if you asked me, they would say that. But my eighth grade teacher, he was a short band teacher. He was a short, angry, bald man. He was shorter than me, and he was like, "Hey, take the saxophone and go learn it." Literally. And I went and learned saxophone, and I just kept playing. In high school, my band directors encouraged me and kept me pushing. And when it was time to go to college, I was like, okay, I have two options. I can major in music, or I can major in computer science. So the deal was to myself was to major in music, and if I didn't work out my first semester, my first year, I would switch to comp sci. Obviously, it worked out. Now, in music, education isn't the default choice. Like, you can do performance, you can do composition, you can do music therapy, music theory. I picked education because I remember in the 10th grade, I did this like pageant, this music pageant, and the kid came in, he mopped the floor with me playing wise.
Oh, wow.
And so that day I learned, like, if I wanted to be a performer, I was too many years behind the gate, but I still wanted to be involved in music. I love music. I liked it. So I was like, I could teach people music. I could teach people to be a better musician I was in high school, and to have the outlets to be able to travel and be in a band and move around and do all kinds of stuff without, and to have that experience and be a classroom teacher.
Right.
Because I like to say I've saved a few lives already as a teacher.
Right.
And I like to say you've saved a few lives as a teacher. That's my goal. That's what I want to do.
Right.
I think ultimately I want to be a college professor, but that's still teaching.
Right. Absolutely.
So that's my teaching story. Supposed to be. Oh, I don't have the comment section up. That's what I'm supposed to be looking at.
Yeah. So how I got started teaching. So unlike Jerome, I didn't know I wanted to be a teacher until it happened. So a little bit about my backstory. So when I first decided that I wanted to go to college, I actually wanted to go to college to be a fashion designer. So, all my life, I was always a pretty artsy person, very creative person. And all my life, my family would always encourage me to do something artsy. And one thing that I used to do when I was a little girl is I remember I used to make like clothes for my dolls out of any fabric I could find. So like socks, old clothes, anything, right? So, my family encouraged me in ways, and like, some of my relatives would buy me things like sewing kits and stuff like that so I could practice on my dolls. And so when I turned 17, I want to say I turned about 16, 17. I was a senior. I remember that. I applied at an art school in Dallas, and I got accepted. So I was really excited about that because like most 18-year-olds, like you want to get out your mama's house and you want to go somewhere else, right? So I got a letter shortly after that from the art school telling me that they actually had to move everybody who had applied for the fall semester into the next spring semester because they had to renovate their building. And I was like, I don't want to wait. So I applied to the school that I went to, and I don't like to tell too much of my business on here because I don't trust people on the internet. But I ended up going to just a regular university where I studied psychology, and I got my undergraduate in psychology because my second goal or dream was always, if I didn't do the whole fashion design thing, that I would like to go and get my degree in psychology and be a clinical psychiatrist, right? Or psychologist. So I got my undergrad in psychology. I minored in criminal justice. And shortly after that, you know, like every other college graduate, I suffered getting work, right? And so at the time, I was dating my college sweetheart. And my college sweetheart was, huh?
I said I can't relate.
Yeah, yeah, okay. But so at the time, I was dating my college sweetheart, and my college sweetheart, he was a poli-sci major, and he ended up going to Texas Tech to get in their law program. Well, he got into their law program. So he was at Texas Tech studying law. And I moved up there with him because I just thought he was going to be my husband, child. So you know how that goes. So, you know, I moved up there with him, and while he was in law school, I started a law school program in sociology, because I still thought that I was gonna do something with psychology, right? So I went to grad school for sociology, and while I was doing grad school, I was also looking for work, and I just so happened to get a job as a substitute teacher. So when I substitute taught, it was up in Lubbock at some predominantly Black and Hispanic elementary school, because believe it or not, segregation is hella still a thing in Lubbock. I don't know why, but you can clearly tell when you're going to the Black side of Lubbock. It's crazy. Anyway, so the kids loved me at that elementary school. The principal loved me. She always invited me to come back, so I kind of became a long-term sub at that particular elementary school, and lo and behold, I ended up loving it. And so, you know, at this time, you know, I did enjoy education. I did enjoy working with those kids, but I'm still like, okay, I still want to do psychology, right? So I'm like, okay, well, then maybe instead of doing clinical psychology, I could do child psychology instead, because, you know, when you're working, especially when you're working with minority children, and especially minority children, or in general, children who come from poverty and generational poverty at that, there are so many things that those kids are having a hard time processing, and I wanted to be the person that kind of helped those kids get through that. So they really did spark my love for children. I'm not gonna lie, because I never thought in a million years that I would want to work with children. So me and that boyfriend didn't work out, so I ended up moving back home. And I could no longer go to grad school because financial aid cut me off. Like, let's just keep it funky, because that's what happened. So financial aid cut me off, and I moved back home and stayed with my mom. I was distraught because my relationship had also ended. And so when I moved back home with my mom, I ended up getting a job as a lead teacher at a preschool. So I had a whole classroom full of 3-year-olds going on 4. So that was like, yeah, I'm excited for this. But the thing is, when I went to apply for that job as the preschool teacher, I actually didn't apply as a teacher. I applied as an aide, but they were short on lead teachers, and I had an education behind me. So, and, you know, I had the experience behind me with being a sub and stuff. So they kind of pushed me into a lead teacher position. Mm-hmm. So in some ways, I'm thankful for that. And in some ways, I do feel like, you know, I wish I had more knowledge under my belt so that I could have been a more effective teacher. But that just kind of drove me to actually get the education to actually do that and be effective as a teacher. So, you know, I ended up quitting as a preschool teacher because, unfortunately, preschool doesn't really pay a lot. I mean, like, I know teachers, we talk about, we don't get paid, but you really don't get paid when you working at a preschool. You hear me? Because it ain't part of the district. They could pay you whatever they want to pay you. They could pay you minimum wage if that's what they want to pay you, and that's what I was getting paid. So, yeah, that's the facts. So I quit working there as a lead teacher, and I went on to actually do a job that my degree required. So I got a job at a mental health agency. So when I worked at the mental health agency, I got hired on as a not a case manager, we called it a services coordinator. So basically what my job was to make sure, the population of people that I work with, I completely skipped over that part. So I worked at a mental health agency, and I worked specifically with adults with special needs, So that means intellectual disability, developmental disabilities, and a lot of my clients also had a dual diagnosis. So they might have autism and also depression, or they might be ID. And if y'all don't know what ID is, that's intellectual disability. We used to call it mental retardation. We don't call it that no more. So they would have that, or they would have bipolar disorder, or they would have, ID, or they would have schizophrenia. So, I learned a whole lot working there, and it taught me that, humanity, like, we all have so many different ranges of abilities and what we're capable of. And, no matter what your ailment is, you are a person and you have feelings and you have the right to express yourself. And I learned so much from those people. Like, I learned so much from those people. I learned that you could be a person with autism, like, and still be going to Texas A&M. Because I had clients who were at Texas A&M, fam. Or clients who had Down syndrome holding down full-time jobs. Like, I know that doesn't sound revolutionary, but it was for me because I hadn't ever been around, people like that in my life. So that actually kind of helped me when I decided to eventually go into education. So I quit there because I realized that my heart was in education. I loved my clients. It really hurt me to walk away from that job, but my heart was in education. So what I did was I saved up my money for like a year and I quit my job. And I went out on a limb and I went to an alternative certification program. So in Texas, the way that it works is that if you already have a degree, you can still get a teaching certification. Shout out to Proto Man for the host. So you can still get an alternative certification. So it was like a 2-year program that I went through. And thank God my savings held up. Oh my God. Thank God my savings held up. But I was blessed to be in a situation to where I was able to follow my heart. And so I did it. And so, after I got my cert, I was an instructional aide at an elementary school with 4th graders. After that job, I went on to be a reading interventionist at an elementary school, and I helped kids from K through 4 with their reading. And I was very successful at that job, by the way. I'm not trying to toot my own horn, but I was very successful. Had so many success stories. Yes, so many success stories. And then I got my official first job as a teacher last year. So this is actually my 2nd year teaching. Last year I taught 2nd grade. This year I'm teaching kindergarten, and I love kindergarten. I didn't think I was gonna love kindergarten. Like, I fought my principal. I was like, yo, I love 2nd grade. I don't want to move. And she was like, I just really think that you'll be better in kindergarten with this team. And to be honest, she was right. Because my team in 2nd grade was, I feel like we should talk about that another day. But that's a whole topic, Pooh. Let me write that down, because that's a whole topic. Your team is key as a teacher. But
around the time you met us, where were you at the time that, like, we all met and got close? Where were you? I remember the shelter.
Yeah, that was always like my 2nd job, working at the shelter.
Okay, so I remember you working at the shelter. Were you doing the mental?
When I met you guys, I think I was still working at Macy's, and then that's when I transitioned from. No, I'm lying, because Macy's is before I moved to Lubbock with my ex-boyfriend. So y'all knew me when I was a preschool teacher. That's when y'all met me.
And that was after you had broke up with him.
Yes. Mm-hmm.
And it's funny you say that about the working with people with mental disabilities. One of my closest friends, and he'll tell you, he has a developmental delay.
Yeah.
College degree.
Right.
He had to work hard. He had to work harder than most people. He had a lot of failures because he wanted to live, the college life, but because of his things, he had to focus in differently. But he worked hard to get his degree in journalism. And I'm always proud of him. Every time I talk to him, I have to tell him, like, dog, I'm proud of you, dog.
Right.
Because and there were some points when I first met him, I was like, I don't think you gonna make it, man.
Right.
No.
And that's one thing about that population of people. They will prove you wrong.
Mm-hmm.
They will let you know that my disability is not going to hinder me from doing anything that I want to do. Yep. And my client, like, he went on to graduate. I had 2 clients that have graduated from Texas A&M.
Mm-hmm. Texas A&M is not a easy school to get into.
Absolutely
and graduate.
not. Oh, it's not either, Pooh. Because trust me, I did apply. not too much on myself, but I did apply at Texas A&M. But I kind of didn't want to go anyways because it's too close to where I live. I don't want to tell y'all where I stay, but I did apply. Okay, but they tuition was too high, and I was like, all right, bet. I'm glad I didn't get into y'all funky school anyways. But yeah, you so right about that. Like, oh my God, they taught me so much about life. Like, my clients, like some of my most downtrodden clients would just give me positive advice. Like, they were so wise. Like, I work with these two brothers who both had ID, and they always just had the most profound advice. Like, y'all are so wise. Like, I'm blown away. Like, how I don't know how I got through life feeling the way that I felt about people who had ID, but I'm kind of embarrassed about it, thinking about it now, because they really taught me so much about life. And and I'm blessed to say that I had that experience, because working with people with ID taught me how to differentiate when I'm as a teacher. Because when you come into teaching, especially teaching kindergarten, Jesus.
Oh, listen.
Especially teaching kindergarten, you are teaching babies that have a blank slate. Some of them don't even know their ABC. Some of them don't even know what letter their names start with. You hear me?
Mm-hmm.
So being able to take what I learned when I worked at the mental agency and applying it to my education and my teaching rather has made me so much more effective, and I'm so thankful for it.
And I keep forgetting this. Your bachelor's was in psychology, right?
My bachelor's was in psychology, yes.
How did that play a part and help you in education? I'm pretty sure it had to have some kind of.
Absolutely. See, here's the thing that a lot of people have misconceptions about people who go to college, right? I almost said the N-word. Ooh. So, because y'all know I'm sophisticated, as Jerome say. I'm sophisticated. But here's the thing that people forget about people who go to college. Just because you go to college don't mean you know things. I studied psychology for 4 years. I studied sociology for like a year because, financially it cut me off. I'm going to go back though, I promise you. But even though I had all of that knowledge that I learned, I still was not equipped when I went to go work at that mental health agency. Mm-hmm. It was actually working in the field and being there on the ground with the people that really taught me some things. And I am so thankful for it. Like, I really am.
That's what I tell people. I tell people, like, even though, when I was an undergrad, I was an exceptional student. My grades didn't reflect it, but I was a really studious musician in undergrad. My band director trusted me with rehearsing the band. I was writing music for the band. Like, I did a lot of stuff that's like a big deal. I was writing music for high schools and arranging. Nothing is a bigger, come to Jesus moment than getting in the classroom or getting where you want to be the first time and realizing, like, oh, I know how to do this on paper. I know how to write it down.
There you go.
I know how to quote that page and number from the textbook in APA form.
There you go.
But the application of all of those skills is a completely different pony. And I think that's in any field. That's not just in education. That's in any field. The application of your knowledge. And that's what keeps a lot of people from being successful, is that because they think, oh, I got a 4.0 in college and I know this and I know all the books and I know all the theories and I can quote you these people and these things and I can do all this in my head. But once it comes time to apply that knowledge and if you got to distribute it out to people and tell it to people, even now I tell people all the time, I don't have all the answers. One of my friends told me, she was like, you're really humble for a teacher, because a lot of early teachers in your years don't say the stuff you saying, because I will say, man, I don't know.
Exactly. I'm quick to say I don't know. Even to my students, like, I don't know, baby. I'm going to have to ask somebody, then I'm going to come back to you. And they remember, too. Because little kids hold you accountable. They like, remember, miss, you told me you was going to tell me. Like, okay, baby, let me get back to you on that, okay?
Yeah. I'm quick to say, I thought what I was doing was right. I found out I was wrong, or, this was an eye-opening come to Jesus moment, especially as a music teacher. Because music teachers are like tough critics. What's up, Chariot Dog? Music teachers are tough critics. Like, if you're not good coming out the gate, music teachers will discredit you and be like, "Oh, he trash."
Oh, snap!
Like literally, because especially in the middle and high school level, the need to perform is big.
Yeah.
And so if you got a 6th grade, 7th grade, 8th grade band like I did, and you got to take them to be judged, and you don't do good. Like my first year, and when I took my kids to assessments, I did terrible. I did bad. Just honestly, just bad. It was bad.
I feel like every teacher has had a point in time where they feel like they have failed their students. I feel like in a lot of ways, I failed my 2nd graders. I honestly did. It still weighs heavy on my heart to this day. So that's why now, you know, when I teach my kinder kids, I'm going to 100% whatever I can do to rectify it so that I don't fail any more children. Like, that's what I gotta do.
My first year, I definitely think I failed all of my students. I think the grade I was most successful with that my first year last year was my 7th graders, but that's because I felt like they were really receptive to me. My 8th graders weren't as great. This year, my 7th graders, that were my 6th graders last year, actually did really awesome. My 6th graders that I have this year, we didn't have such a great year, and then it got cut short. But listen. I took my comments and scores I got from last year, and I did a lot of reflecting.
Yes, absolutely.
And I'm pretty sure core teachers and like you as an elementary teacher, when you do state testing with your kids and you look at those scores, pretty sure you get in reflective mode too.
Yes, absolutely. All right, let's go ahead and move on to the next topic. So, talking about quarantine, because this podcast is titled Teachers in Quarantine. And we actually like this name. Tell us how you feel about the name in the chat. What's up? Because, you know, we came up with this, like I said, a month ago. But we were so busy with distance learning, which we might talk about next time.
Let's wait until I'm done. Because I still got a few more weeks. I still got, let me see, 2 more weeks.
Yes, yes.
I got 2 more weeks. Jeff.
You almost there, brother. Like, you almost there, fam. Like, oh my God. But so let's talk about how quarantine has affected us both professionally and personally. So, quarantine. All right, I'm gonna let you go ahead and speak because you still in it technically.
For me, teaching in quarantine, it's been ups and downs. So like my first week, I was like, oh, you know, whatever. It's just the first week. You know, we're gonna be back in school next week, and then it didn't happen. And I think around April is when I got into my slump. I was fine, and then in April I was like, oh, we might not really be going back. And I got into a slump, because at the time, the only class that mattered were the core classes. The arts didn't matter.
Right.
So we didn't have to do anything with our kids, and I didn't know what to do at the time. Then we got some instructions, and I started doing some things. And I started feeling a little bit better. But then we got into May, and we're still in May. We're at the tail end now, and I got back down again, not just because of all the other stuff going on, but because of the lack of participation, you know, in the stuff I'm doing.
That's a word.
And you know, we had in every district literally does it differently. No two districts probably handle distance learning the same way, and even within schools it's different. And so like for me, we had to do 2 assignments. We had to do 2 lessons for our kids a week, right. And I started slacking on doing those lessons, and I could get in trouble for it. But it was like, man, my kids not coming to my live meetings. They're not turning into work.
That's
you know,
that is such a mood. Oh my God.
And then when I would talk to some of my kids, I started feeling bad too, because they were like, we got a lot of work to do in these other classes, and they really have a lot of work. They've got like a day of work to do, and it's really more than a whole school day, because even in a whole school day, you don't really have that much work.
Right.
And
that's true.
So I've been kind of just up and downs. Like when I get students who are into the stuff and they're still participating, I'm happy. But then when I go and look, and I'm like, out of my biggest class, I got a class of 40.
Right.
And my 6th grade class. And when I look at that class of 40, I got 7 that do the assignments.
Right. Oh, it's so disheartening, right?
Yeah.
It's so disheartening.
And what makes it worse is that, like, some of my parents are teachers. And they're the ones that are not doing the work. And that's, like, really got me tripping out. Like, your mom's a teacher. Your dad's a teacher. You know, your guardian is a teacher. And you haven't participated in anything I've asked. And it's like, this is a story for another podcast. Yes. And I had a teacher who was really up in, like, a parent who was up on my ass Oh, excuse me, I didn't mean to. Well, whatever.
We get curious. It's okay.
I had like in my ass. She was a teacher in another district. She was really high up. She was a doctor, and she was quoting stuff out of our school handbook that I didn't even know was in there about her child because he wasn't doing so well in my class. And he's done one assignment that I've given in 6 weeks. One assignment. And there's nothing to hold them accountable. So I can't really.
Especially with you being a teacher who teaches the arts.
Yeah.
They really listen. I'm gonna speak my piece when you're done, but trust me, I understand. I understand.
Yeah,
they if they don't take the core classes seriously, I know for a fact they're not gonna take the art seriously either. But
yeah,
we can talk about all that.
For me, the trends that I have, my good kids, even are the ones, or not my. I'm not. Let me not say my good kids. That makes a negative stereotype. My kids that really enjoy band. And they really wholeheartedly enjoy what they're doing. A lot of them are the ones that I tend to see and hear from. Even if a lot of them don't do all of the work, sometimes they'll come to my live videos and say hi. Like one of my students, as a matter of fact, her and her mom and her sister, they came out. They were like, we just wanted to say hi to you. Because I was in the school to pass out instruments to students who didn't have them.
Right.
And they was like, she was like, I have my trumpet. I just want to say hi. Hey. I'm with it. Hi. She had on that mask and everything.
Right.
And, so it was good to just, to see those interactions. But then I think of, some of my kids who, they were already struggling in band. And it's like, dang, I haven't heard from them since this whole thing started,
Yes. It's interesting because the kids, in my experience, I'm pretty sure your experience is similar.
Mm-hmm.
The kids who are the strugglers are the ones that aren't participating. The ones who are really struggling are the ones who are not doing the work. That's my experience.
Yeah, no, I can say the same thing. A lot of my kids who struggle are the ones I haven't heard from. And some of it, and I guarantee some of it is a lack of access to resources. Mm-hmm. Like my school did a good job at my district. This district I'm in is a district that in my state, which I've probably already given away what state I live in, is a little bit more wealthy, this district. So all the students have access to a laptop. But what good is a laptop if you don't have access to Wi-Fi?
Right.
And
that definitely plays a part in it because, my district is not wealthy. Where I live, most of, 95% of our student population lives in poverty. So, it's...
Oh, yeah, the district... Yeah. The district I'm going to, the one that I'm leaving my district for... I'm going from a high income, a very suburban district back to urban. Mm-hmm. I'm going right back to urban. So I could imagine a lot of people say, well, if I explain to them the difference between the two schools I'm going to today, why would you leave your school? But they don't understand.
Let's be real. The hood kids are more fun. I'm sorry. I work in the hood. Love my kids. I love my babies.
Listen, when those kids... In my experience, is when the kids who have the kids who are in the urban areas, urban, and I'm using that term loosely. When they love you, they'll do anything for you. When they know you care, you been not workers. Yep. Even in my school, the kids that know I care, I have kids who I don't even teach, and they be like, "Hey, yo, dog, don't mess with Mr. Queen." I had one kid, my first year, he was in my class for all of 3 days, and then he left the class. But every time I saw him in the hallway, I would speak to him. Then one day, he was about to get in a fight, and I broke him out from that fight. I was like, hey, Nelson, well, it doesn't matter what his name is. But I was like, hey, dog, come on, you can't be doing that. And ever since then, he comes up to me and speaks to me. If I don't see him, he'll be like, yo, Mr. Queen, what's up? And dap me up. He ain't been in my class. He don't really know me. But because he built that relationship, because he saw that I cared, because every time he's in trouble, I'll speak. And, this is a thing for another episode. A lot of teachers really don't care like that. Once students...
We definitely saving that conversation. It's already in the tub.
Anything. They'll do anything for you. Even if you don't teach them. It's so crazy. Yeah. It is so crazy. They will do anything. Even if you don't teach them. You know this.
And honestly, me working in a school where most of the kids are Black and Hispanic, you just being present means a lot to them because they see somebody who looks like them in a professional position. Because I know I have kids who are in my class and they just love me and they love my hair. They're like, oh, you know, miss, your hair is like mine. I'm like, yes, it is, baby. It is beautiful. I love it. I love it when you wear your hair like that. So, like, a lot of times, like, just being there means a lot to them. So,
and that's why I said the thing I said about my first black male teacher, because I didn't know this at the time. But black male teachers make up less than 2% of all teachers. All teachers. And so, like, I didn't realize that when I grew up where I grew up in Baltimore, that, you know, when I was seeing a lot of black teachers and Hispanic teachers, that was a minority. And then when I met my black teachers, who most of them tend to be music teachers, my male teachers, that they were even smaller subset, it didn't occur to me, like, that is important, that matters, and it affects your perception.
Yes, absolutely.
And it does. And that's why when I said, you know, I didn't realize it when I was a kid, but I do as an adult, how profound my second grade teacher was. Because if you asked me 5 years ago, I wouldn't have mentioned his name.
Right.
But when I grew and I learned, I was like, my second grade teacher. If it wasn't for him in believing in us and giving us challenges, and I wish I would have saw him more when I came back to Baltimore, when I moved back into Baltimore.
Yeah.
Because he passed a few years after I moved back. I wish I would have came, because he was at the school that I went to in elementary school. He was there the whole time. He had never left. He stayed at that school. And so I wish I would have saw him more. The last time I saw him, I was in high school.
Right.
Then the next thing I know, everybody was like, he died. And I was like, what? And he was young.
Yeah.
So let me see. If I was in the second grade, he may have been in his 40s. He was in his 40s. He couldn't have been in his 50s. He had to be in his 40s. Right. He was younger than my mom.
Yeah.
So
go ahead.
No, I was gonna say is let you go ahead and do.
Well, first, we've talked about how quarantine has affected you personally. What about, professionally? How has it affected you personally? Like, you, the person, not necessarily the teacher.
Well, like I said, the person me, I've been up and down. Like, sometimes I've been okay, sometimes I haven't. Most of the time, I've kind of hovered in the I've been good line. I've tried to pick up some new habits. Right. So I started eating healthier. I started cooking more. I exercise 4 days a week. I'm not losing much weight right now, but I'm convinced that it's because I'm gaining muscle, and then that muscle is going to dissolve into fat. Muscle is heavier than fat, and all that stuff. I'm convinced. So I've been trying to pick up some new habits. Some more things I've been learning. I've been picking up some new skills that I can apply. I've been practicing my instrument more, something I don't get to do much. Like I said, I didn't get to spend much time with Chase, but I've been talking to my mom as more. Like, my mom would have to call me. I've been calling her. I'm like, just how you doing, Mom? And all that stuff. I've been spending a lot more time alone, more than I probably would have if school was in session.
Right.
But I've been floating in the I've been good line until maybe last week, and we'll get into that, soon. But I've been good. I've been picking up new habits. I'm about to start reading more because I want to brush up on my pedagogy. So I need to read.
So listen, do you have Amazon Prime? Because there's hella books on Amazon Prime for free. Not for free, but with your subscription.
I do have Amazon Prime. I haven't looked into that part.
Yes. I wanted to reread, because they have some classics on there, like the Odyssey and 1984, and they have what is that one book by W.E.B. Du Bois? I don't know how you say his name. What is the name of the book? Anyway, they have a lot of classics on there, and I think that people should definitely go and check it out if they have Amazon Prime. If you like to read and you have Amazon Prime, it's definitely the wave, because I've read some books. There is this one book that I was reading. Me and Master Prime are reading it together, called Code of War, that I got from Kindle Unlimited. So you get Kindle Unlimited, and then you get Prime reading if you have an Amazon Prime subscription.
Oh, really?
Yes. It's the wave. Okay. It's the wave. I need to start reading more, but I've been too obsessed with Animal Crossing. So that's a thing. But as for me, I'm sorry, go ahead.
The last thing, since you mentioned Amazon, Animal Crossing,
yes.
The one thing I've also been doing more of, and some people are probably going to laugh, I picked up an MMO, and it's a very old MMO, and when people hear what MMO this is, they're going to be like, dude, what? But
RuneScape.
I've been going really hard into RuneScape.
I knew it!
I've been going hard into
I
RuneScape.
knew
Like,
it.
legit. Like, I'm so serious. I've been going hard into it. Like, it was a nostalgia thing for me at first.
Yeah.
And then, because I had always went on and off, like, playing it and then not playing it. And then, I think, like, 2 years ago, I was just like, I'm done playing this game.
Yeah.
But when quarantine happened, or not in quarantine, when did it actually start? I want to say February, I picked it back up. But then once quarantine happened, I was, like, going hard, just playing it. I was putting hours into it. So that's what I've been really doing.
Oh,
I've been putting
that's
hours into
interesting.
RuneScape, like, legit.
I know lots of people have really fond memories of that game.
Yep, I've been playing a bit of Pokemon too. I still need to complete my decks before the DLC comes out, which I think is coming out in a couple weeks, rumored. But yeah, so that's how I've been doing.
For sure. So as far as me and what I've been and how I've been dealing with quarantine, so similar to you, Jerome, I have been having a hard time with distance learning. Distance learning is really, really hard for little bitties because everything that they do is dependent on what their parents allow them to do or what their parents have time for. So a lot of distance learning for me has been kind of disheartening, to be honest. But one of the things that my team lead told me, and my team lead is awesome, I love her, is that we have to remember in my district, 95% of the people in my district live in poverty, right? So we have to take that into account. And although I have an amazing district who I love, and I feel like we dealt with our equity issue as effectively as we possibly could, because what my district did was they gave every family a laptop. So they took all the laptops from the schools and gave them to a family, and every family, was able to use a laptop, and they helped our families get access to internet and stuff. So I'm blessed that I live in a district that has an amazing superintendent that keeps in mind that because of the population we serve, there is an equity issue.
Good.
So that being said, though, because we do live in the district that we live in, and because of the poverty rate, a lot of my families are essential workers or they're frontline workers, like in the healthcare fields. And honestly, distance learning was kind of impossible for a lot of my families. So I, as a teacher, sometimes I did struggle back and forth with realizing this fact. And then also struggling with the fact that my students were not coming to see me on Zooms. Like some Zooms, a lot of Zooms actually, I would literally be on Zoom by myself, waiting for people to come. Nobody ever came.
Been there.
Right? And then, a lot of my students not submitting work. And it kind of took a toll on me as a teacher, because as teachers, we're used to being in control. Like, we're used to being in control of our classrooms. We're used to being in control of how our students turn in their work. We're used to being in control of how we assess our kids. And when you strip a teacher from that control, when you strip a teacher from her classroom, when you strip a teacher from being able to impact her students directly, it does take a toll on your person. It does take a toll on your mental health. And I can be honest and say that I've never had an anxiety attack until COVID. Seriously. So COVID has been kicking my butt. Okay. So I can say that when all this stuff happened with COVID, I was actually on spring break. And then after spring break, that's when our district was like, okay, because of everything going on with COVID, we're not going to be having class. We're going to go back on certain date. And then that date came, and then still we're not going back because things were getting worse. And then it just so happened that we weren't going to be going back for the rest of the academic year. So I wasn't even able to see my kindergarten students graduate into first grade, because we normally do like a big celebration for kindergarten as they're moving into first grade. So we weren't able to do that. We were not able to take a class picture together. So like all of that, all of those feelings coming together, it really did take a toll on me emotionally. I still feel up and down like you, where like some days I'm really good, and then some days I find myself really mourning the fact that I was not able to spend those last couple of months with my students, because we had built such a good rapport. My kids were progressing. We were in the middle of working on a project together that we were never able to finish. So professionally, COVID really did interrupt my mental. It really did interrupt my mental. How can I say? It interrupted my mental peace. Like it definitely made me feel. It definitely made me feel vulnerable. It made me feel helpless. It made me feel unproductive. It made me feel all of the things that you would imagine, right? So how it affects me personally, I feel like the way that it has affected me professionally and personally intertwined. I've said this on stream before, but I'm a self-diagnosed workaholic. So when you take away my purpose, when you take away my work, when you take away my productivity, I don't really know how to handle myself. So yeah. So, but the good thing, because I will say there is a silver lining. The good thing is, because I'm a teacher, I'm not really able to game and do the things that I want to do as often as I do them or would like to do them. So I've been able to game a lot more. I've been able to get pretty more. I know you guys have noticed, okay? I'm putting on makeup more. I'm doing my nails. I'm giving myself pedicures and actually trying to make myself look like somebody. So self-care, like this situation has been difficult, but it has forced me to take care of myself on some real for real stuff. Because I talk about self-care, but am I doing it all the time? No.
Yep.
But COVID has kind of forced me to do it. So silver linings, right?
That's what it's all about.
Anyway, so we're gonna dip into something a little heavier. I know y'all already know what's going on.
Mm-hmm.
So the next topic is life update and current events. I think I'm gonna let Jerome take the floor with this.
You can let me take the floor all night.
I think I'm because you have a heavier stance. I feel like than me, considering.
Yeah. I'll tell you what. Let me start here. So, before I want to say Monday, maybe. When did we originally plan to do the podcast?
We were gonna do it on Monday.
So before last Monday, I was good. I was hovering that good line. Saturday, as a matter of fact, because that's when we had talked about it.
We talked about it Saturday, and we're like, okay, well, let's just do it on Monday.
Yeah. So that Sunday, or that Saturday night, Sunday morning, I got the news from my mom that her boyfriend that she was dating had passed because of complications after he had started recovering from COVID. I wonder if that's still considered a COVID-related death. I'm not sure.
It's COVID-related because COVID exacerbated the issues that he was already having health-wise. So
yeah, okay, so that's what I was thinking too.
Yeah.
And so that got me down, not because I was close with her boyfriend. At this point in my mom's life, who she decides to date is who she decides to date. Right. But I was upset because it was my mom, and that was someone she cared about, and it really, for the first time, really started to hit closer to me. That was within 2 degrees of separation from me. You know, we talk about that 6 degrees of separation. You know, that was 2 degrees, and it was so close that it was my mom.
Right.
You know, so that was a thing. Then I think I want to say Monday is when I first started hearing about the George Floyd stuff, and my heart just sank. And then just as the week went on and everything started happening, I started getting angry and I started getting frustrated and I started feeling these emotions. And a lot of it for me is pent up and bottled up emotion.
Yes.
Because I work in a district where I don't work with predominantly Black teachers. These teachers, while they're my friends, I don't think they always understand. And I feel like I've always tried to hold neutral stances in these kind of things because I don't want to scare people. And I've been so vocal on social media. I think people are. I'm fed up. I'm tired. I'm hurt, and it is for me. It's big because I'm a Black male. I'm raising a Black boy. I'm a teacher, you know, and so these things are the repercussions I feel for years to come because I have to explain. Matter of fact, we just talked about this before we started. I had to explain to Chase, my son, like, this stuff. And after he goes around, he says, I feel like I want to be a police officer. Or he feels like he wants to be the president of the United States. And I have to say, well, some people that are police officers or the guy that we consider the president, don't really have your best interests in mind, or that, you go to school with people, because he goes to school in a predominantly white district, with whose skin and hair and eyes and their body features are all different from you. And while they may not be your teachers and your classmates, there are people who think that because your skin and your eyes and your hair, while beautiful to me and beautiful to everyone else, they want to see you hurt. And I had to have this conversation with him about police brutality and racism. And he asked me, do they want to hurt me as a kid? And earlier that day, I saw a video where there was a 14-year-old kid. And he didn't look 14 years to me when I saw it. 14-year-old kid was like body slammed on the ground and was getting beat up by a police officer because he illegally brought tobacco from a store and was giving the police officer shit. But he was a 14-year-old kid. Looks like he's 12. And that police officer was like punching him like he was a grown man. And then there's a video of George Floyd with his saying he can't breathe, with an officer's knee into his back. And as he passes out and dies 3 minutes later. And then I grew up in Baltimore, and I'm from Baltimore, and I was in school in Baltimore during the Baltimore riots. And then I have people who I used to consider my friends, and people who I thought were my friends, and people who I've networked with, and they hold these stances, and they only condemn one part of what's going on and doesn't see the whole situation. And I'm like, yo, the riots are a part of the problem, yes, but we're talking about the bigger and larger issue. Yes, the riots happen, but we're talking about the bigger and larger issue, and people don't understand. They don't understand.
Yeah.
And so I really had to evaluate as an educator my stance, how I promote my stance on things.
Right.
Because being a teacher is political.
Absolutely.
And even though we're told, you said it the other day,
yes.
Even though we're told to not be political, and we're not supposed to spew our view, or have tell students our views, they is a part of the job, because these things affect us. When we have people who want to take money from public schools, and when my governor, who is being praised for his action on COVID, blocks funding for historically black colleges in urban cities, which he disguised because he vetoed that bill under the guise of saying that because of COVID he had other things to worry about. But my governor has had a history of these kind of decisions, right. But not to be off the topic too much, but
our very existence as teachers is political, because it's always a point of political debate. But when we try to speak on it, it's just like, oh, well, you're just a teacher, and what, like, people really dismiss the position. Like, they don't realize everything that we go through as teachers, and we're paying attention to people having these conversations about us. So we got to be a part of the conversation too. But back to what you were saying, like, it's definitely got to be, and I'm not a mother, but it's got to be hard explaining to your black child that there are people out there who don't want to see him prosper or even want to see him hurt because he lives in the skin that he can't control. So, like, just in light of recent events, like, me and Jerome have been talking about this for the last couple of days, and I feel like at this point for me, I'm kind of in a state of mourning. Like, this morning, I woke up okay. But yesterday morning, if it wasn't for my sister, I probably would have been in bed and crying off and on all day yesterday. But my sister just so happened to be like, hey, let's go to the park. And I felt like I really needed that, because even though I didn't know George Floyd, even though I didn't know Breonna Taylor, even though I didn't know Ahmaud Arbery, we've seen this story over and over and over and over for generations. As black people, we know that this is a thing that happens, and this is just yet another culmination of our collective trauma as black people. Yes. And when you see and you hear about so many of these things happening to people who look like you, simply for the fact that they look like you,
Mm-hmm.
You do feel a sense of collective Black trauma. And so, for me, like, everything going on with COVID has made me feel away. But then COVID on top of this, I have
Mm-hmm.
not been okay. I'm just going to be honest with you guys. I have not been
So
okay.
not just to, real quick. One of my teacher friends who's white, really sweet lady, love her to death. She's like my teacher bestie, like
Right.
real smack. She's texting me, and she's telling me like she's like, yo, every major city is protesting. What's going on? And like, I want to be like, have you been living under a rock?
Yeah.
Because I've been posting about this for the past 2 days, and she's like, these demonstrations have to fix something. And I'm like, she's like, right. And she's the lady I was telling you earlier. She lived in an area where there were only 3 Black people in her area.
Right.
And she's like, these protests are happening. Something's going to change, right? And I have to text her back and say, no, they're not going to change. Because she's never had to worry about none of this stuff until she moved to Maryland, until she moved to a state where there are way more than 3 Black people in the area.
Right.
Like, no, these are not going to fix things. I didn't mean to distract you. That's just something.
It's all good because that's a real thing. I'm blessed to work in a school. Like I said, my elementary school, my kids, the kids that go to our school are majority, like the majority of our kids are Black and Hispanic. White is not even considered a subpopulation because of how few kids, how few white kids we have at our school. And I saw on Facebook some of my white colleagues calling it out. Like, I know one of my white colleagues, she teaches in the upper grades, and she was like, a lot of the kids I teach are Black. This could be, even though I don't have any children, this could be any one of my students on the news with a police officer resting their weight on their necks. And she was very vocal about it, and I was like, okay, sis. And I saw some of my other, and my principal was talking about it, and she's white. My assistant principal was talking about it. She's a white woman. So it makes me feel good that even though my coworkers are white, a lot of them are being vocal about it, especially the ones who matter, like the admins. Because I'm going to be real with you. I've worked at schools, bro, where most of the kids are Black and Hispanic. Most of the admins and the teachers are white.
My school.
And they don't care about these kids' lives.
My school, the one that I'm teaching at now, not the one I'm going to. Even the one I'm going to, most of the teachers are still white, but they care about the teachers. But my bad.
You do have a lot of that, like where a lot of the teachers are white. They only care about doing the job, but they don't really care about the kids and what they're going through. And it's one of those situations where, you know how you talk about the white savior myth when we're talking about movies and stuff? A lot of white teachers out there that teach at like Title I schools, or most of the kids are minority kids, they care about being the white savior, but they don't really care about these kids, bro. So it made me feel good to see some of my teacher friends and even some of the admins talking about this very vocally. But let's go ahead and talk about this last topic.
Hold on. Before we get to the last, I have a fraternity brother that is, he's a white guy. I'm in a predominantly white fraternity, but just because it's a predominantly white fraternity, Black people in the fraternity, we historically have done a lot for the fraternity.
Right.
And one of my fraternity brothers posted a status that said, if I started a movement that said white lives matter, would it be racist? I'm just trying to gain perspective. Now, I don't think that was. I'm not sure if that post was in very bad taste. Just without reading the comments and looking further into it. But he's getting fired up and hit the comments. Yes, young man. Okay. He's getting fired up right now. I hope that comment had more context than just that, because
people firing him up.
He's fired up. Not even by just Black people, by white people, by literally one of the top members of our fraternity is saying something to him, and I'm like,
he about to get that. He about to get that membership revoked. You better chill.
You better chill, because he about to brother no more. But yeah, like to get off this. if I didn't have Chase this weekend, last night there was a peaceful protest in Baltimore and in DC last night. No violence or anything. And if I didn't have Chase, I would be out there. Right. And I had to tell my current interest. She wants me to make. She understands that I'm very emotionally
in tuned.
Yeah, right now, emotionally in tune with what's going on. She was like, "Hey, if you're going to go do what you're going to go do," and not because in her area there's no such things going on, which is why she said, "If you're going to go out, because I know how you feel and I understand, please be safe." She was black women are important, dog. And you keep posting like the thing where you say good morning to all black men only and good afternoon to all the black women. Listen, no offense to my non-black people, but I cannot wait to share my life with a black woman. No offense to anyone else.
Yes.
Literally.
They understand you. They understand and they share in your pain and their mourning with you. Not to say that others can't. Not
to say that others can't.
But we share, like we have a connection of shared pain throughout the years, throughout the generation. You know what I'm saying? Like there's a link. So if you are, I'm not gonna get into that because I've dated interracially also, which is not a problem. But there's definitely a certain connection that I've had with black men versus any other type of man that I've dated. You know what I mean?
Right.
Because they directly understand, you know, not just understanding from an outside perspective.
And all I'm saying is that when something happens, who's on the fucking front line? Black women. Boop. Black women. Boop. Black women. And so I feel like for that alone, that my undying love and my undying affection needs to go to a black woman. And black women have never steered me wrong, and we're going to get to dating in just a second, but black women have never steered me wrong, even when the relationship has not worked out. And so I don't think I need to veer off that path, you know.
Right.
But let's go on.
So we're going to talk about something less depressing, but we do feel like those topics are necessary. And considering the position that me and Jerome both have, we feel like it's our duty to talk about these things. Just off topic, I do talk about race with my kindergartners. I do it in a way that they can understand, though. So it's not like I'm like, oh, well, if you're white, then you're bad. Like, I'm just like, no, just understand that we all have differences and that's okay. And we have to learn to be tolerant with one another. So I do my little part. I
haven't had those conversations with my kids because I teach such a wide variety of kids, and I have a big, not a huge, but a pretty good white population. And I was told when I first got this job that not that I can't be political, but that to watch my tongue, basically, right. For lack of a better word, which is while I don't have those problems with my coworkers for the most part, but that's one of the reasons I wanted to leave my district too. Because I feel like my kids seem like they want to know, but they don't get to. And middle school kids are usually one way or the other. They're either like all the way on the deep end or not. But I never got to have those conversations with my middle school kids because I never wanted to offend another student that wasn't black. And then their mom calls up the school and says, "Hey, Mr. So-and-so is in band, you know, talking about race." And my son feels uncomfortable, and then this whole big thing. And I never wanted to be like that. And I always want all my students to understand. I love all my students.
Right.
Black, white, Indian, Hispanic. And I got, trust me, I got a picture in my phone somewhere of some of my classes. You see a wide variety of faces. I love all my students, and I can point to each one of them and say, you know, that kid, love him because of this, or that girl, I love her because of this. But I never want my students to feel uncomfortable, and I just don't like having that feeling as much as I love students, and I don't like that. I know for a fact that I have students who, the students are not racist, or the students are politically one way.
Right.
Their parents are certain ways.
I feel like the best way to handle that is like if you do talk about it, just make it like general, like just like, hey, you know, you look different than me, but I still love you, and we can still be tolerant of one another, and we can still be friends, and like fight for each other if you see that something is not right. You know, like that's how I talk to my students. But I understand your position is a little bit different because you teach a particular subject, whereas I'm a core teacher, so I do teach social studies. I do teach socio emotional curriculum in my class, so I do have that wiggle room to talk about those things with my kids.
Yep, and a lot.
You don't really.
Yeah, that. Also, a lot of things is, especially in the middle school level and going, and even in late elementary school, more so when students start becoming aware of more things in the world.
Yeah.
You tend to take the viewpoints of your parents.
Right.
Whether you understand what those viewpoints mean or not.
Right.
So I would never outright tell my kids my political affiliation because I have kids whose parents are Trump supporters, and and while I'm not one, by default, that student is. That student doesn't necessarily, he's not a bigot. He's not, he or she isn't a bad person, but because their parents, they learn what their parents learn, and they don't know really how to differentiate. They just know that my parents say this, so let me say what my parents say.
Right.
And so I don't want to make my students feel bad that, oh, Mr. Queen, he doesn't feel this way, so that means he doesn't like me. I don't want that to happen.
Or you don't want it to be a situation where it's like, oh, well, my teacher disagrees with my parent. Who should I believe? You know what I mean?
Yes.
Because that happens too. It's like, who do I believe? Do I believe my daddy or do I believe my teacher?
Yeah. And so I don't want, those are the things I wanted to avoid. And so and even for my kids who I know, based on my conversations with them, that are more right-winged, they're still good kids. One of my favorite students, his parents are obvious Trump supporters because he spews the Trump rhetoric. But he's a good kid, and I love him to death. I do. It's just that he has these views because his parents have these views, and all I would want to know, I hope that in the future, if I ever get to see how he's doing, I wonder how his views change in the future. Or I wonder if those views get amplified in a negative way. Or I wonder if even those views get amplified in a positive way. I still feel, this way politically, but I can, speak onto why.
Right.
And I can say these things are, and that they're not bad things. And maybe they're things that I can say, oh, I can get why you agree with that because I kind of understand that. Yeah. But, I don't want them to say, all the bad things. That's what I don't want. I want to say, if you believe this way politically, and you say because of 1, 2, 3, and I'm like, okay, I can understand that. I may not agree, but I can understand that.
Yeah.
So, but yeah, you said it well. I don't want them to have to choose because even as a band teacher, when students tend to see me for 3, 4 years, so I do tend to hold students tend to hold reference in their band teachers and some of their PE teachers and coaches because we talk to them for 3 or 4 years. We watch them grow up and they get to see all these things. So I believe that, some of my students kind of say some things, hear some things I say, and they take it and they hold it on a pedestal. Yeah. I mean, that's because we're teachers, period.
Yeah, if they respect you, they in some ways kind of take on your views. Like, for example, with my kids, one of the things that I do with my kindergarten teachers, and I promise this is the last thing we'll talk about on this before we move on to the next topic, because I noticed that at the time it's like almost a minute 20. So,
oh yeah,
I'll say this and I'll move on. So, one thing with kindergarten is a lot of my instruction is visual. So, like, for example, if I'm trying to teach my kids how to write about a particular subject, first thing we do is we start with a picture, and then we write a sentence, and we talk about what that picture represents. So, for example, if I say, Miss Me likes ice cream. So, one thing I'll do is I'll draw a picture of myself, and then I'll draw my afro puff, right? And I'm like, hey, so this is me, and this is me with my big poofy hair. And I noticed that after I did that, my kids were doing that. They were drawing pictures of me, and they were like, and look, this is your big poofy hair, and it's so pretty. And I'm just like, oh, thank you so much. So, they do take on your view. So if they know that you feel a way, they're going to take it on too, because I think a lot of my kids, regardless of whether they know it or not, they now have an appreciation for big poofy hair. So I wholeheartedly understand. And then working with the bigger kids, I understand how you have to be a lot more strategic in the way that you talk to them and the way that you address topics with them.
Yes.
But because I remember when I was in high school, my high school coach, because I was in track and field when I was in high school, and I had a black female track coach, and she was amazing. She had the best like quotables and one-liners. Like she was like one of those black coaches you see in the movies. Like she was awesome, and like a lot of her influence definitely rubbed off on me. And I think she's definitely a big reason for why I am the woman that I am today, because like she was so powerful. So there's a way to use your words for good, and because like she used to talk to us about race. Because I remember like when I was in high school, that's when the whole 9/11 thing happened.
Look at you telling your age.
Yes, that was when I was in high school, and I am showing my age. So because I remember being in high school, and we actually were watching the news as they were talking about it. Like, I'm old. So,
Wait, you're not that much older, are you?
I'm old, bro. I'm 33. I'm 33 years old.
6 years? When I was in 9/11, I was in first grade. You can't.
That's not true. I was a freshman in college when 9/11 happened. It happened in 2001.
Yes. You couldn't have been a freshman in college.
I was a freshman in high school. What did I say? I mean a freshman
in college.
I'm sorry, I meant high school. I was a freshman in high school when 9/11 happened.
And I'm 27. We're 7 years apart. Because I was in the first grade. I guarantee you I was in the first grade.
You must be bugging. Hold up. Because if I was a freshman in high school, that means I was like, what, 13, 14?
Yeah. So I was, that's right.
7.
That wasn't right.
Bro, you're right. Oh my God.
Oh wow.
Oh my God. You are so young. I hate it here. But anyway, so she never talked to us explicitly about racism.
One of my cats just started howling out of nowhere. What you talking about, girl?
She didn't express racism specifically, but she had a Muslim family that lived in her neighborhood. And she was like, you know, because of everything going on with 9/11, my neighbors are receiving some unfair hate, and it would make them feel really, really good if you wrote them letters. She didn't even talk about race. So you can still have influence, you know, without explicitly talking about race. Because I remember that conversation explicitly. Anyway, so we finna move on to our last topic. This is a conversation that me and Jerome had last weekend. It was a very in-depth conversation, and it was some good tea. I needed that tea in my life.
There you go, Sada. You want attention. I'm sorry, cat.
So we had a conversation last week about dating as a professional person. And what that looks like. So, I don't even know how to start this conversation.
Where do we begin? All right, so let's start here. As a teacher, what is the dating scene like as a teacher?
For me, it's non-existent right now. If we want to be 100% honest, my dating life is looking like wah, wah, wah.
I got a potential interest, but I tell you that dating as an adult and and even as an educator is a pits, because you got to learn so much.
You really do.
You can't just be out here with anybody.
Oh no. So here's I guess this is where I'll start, since you don't really know where to start. So Rome and I were talking about dating as a professional and how our standards have changed. Let's be honest, because it's what it is. He's called bald and bougie. I'm sophisticated ratchet. We could talk about this and not be judged, right? So basically, we were talking about becoming a professional and how that has changed our standards and our outlook on dating. So me, being the person that I am, was kind of talking to Jerome about my frustrations, my personal frustrations with dating, and just some of the habits that I've run into in my life, and some of the things that I feel like I'm no longer willing to put up with at this point in my life. I'm 33 years old, and my standards for men are changing. Now, I'm not the kind of woman that goes out here and like looks for the bad boys because, you know, men like to think that, like, oh, you out here looking for a thug. Like, no, that's not the case at all. But me being the kind of person I am, I'm a very, like, versatile, easy to get along with person. I believe so. And I feel like the men that I've been with have told me as much. And so I've always been the kind of person, especially in my 20s, because that's when I really started dating. I wasn't really dating in high school. Like, I had boyfriends, but it wasn't that serious. So I've always been the kind of woman where, like, I will date men based on the vibes. Like, if we got good vibes, like, okay, cool, let's date, whatever. In some ways, ignoring other implications of a relationship outside of the way that that person makes me feel and how I make them feel. I think there's definitely some context considering the way that I was raised. I was raised by a single mom. My daddy was here and there. You know, me and my daddy really just kind of started getting close. You know, like, my dad, he was one of the kind of people where, like, when we were together, it was cool. When we were apart, like, out of sight, out of mind. I really didn't feel like me and my daddy had much of a relationship, even though I felt like he loved me still. Even though we didn't see each other all the time. Like, sometimes I wouldn't even see my dad except for maybe, like, once or twice a year. Sometimes maybe not at all. It just kind of depended on what was going on in his life. And that's an unfortunate thing, because I definitely do think that it has affected me in my adulthood. So I never really had that, outside of some amazing uncles in my life, I never really had that idea of what it means to have a man in your life who actually cares about you.
Okay.
I know that sounds hella depressing, but I promise I'm okay. I turned out to be a pretty okay person. Like, I'm doing well for myself. But as far as relationships, I wasn't able to ever really see that. But my dad ended up marrying this amazing woman who I love, by the way, when I was 17 years old. And I felt like that was really my first. And my dad had been married twice before then, but both of those were just, they were dysfunctional. But he met this amazing woman when I was 17. And that was the first time I was able to say, okay, this is what a good relationship looks like. Because she's amazing. They're amazing together. My mom has always kind of also struggled with relationships. She just found a fiance. Like, I know I'm not trying to throw too much shade on my mama, but she just found a fiance later on in her life. My mom is in her 50s. So that's saying something, I feel like.
Your mom is younger than my mom?
Yeah. My mom had me when she was like 19.
Okay, so yeah.
My mom was pretty young.
Okay,
so,
yeah, my mom is older.
Yeah, so she finally found a man, like, that loves her and is willing to, like, marry her and stuff, but she's in her 50s. So I'm just trying to give you guys a backstory of, I never got to see a legitimately functioning relationship, maybe until I was an adult. And I'm already an adult. So it's like, that does nothing for me in my psyche as an adult, right? So I feel like I never really knew what to look for with a man, but I knew for a fact that I never wanted a man who was going to mistreat me, talk down on me, verbally, physically, emotionally abuse me. And so that was pretty much the only standard I had. I'm just going to be honest with you. But now looking back, I'm 33 years old. I don't have a man, which I'm okay with. I'm content in my life without a man because I've learned how to be that. But it just kind of makes me think back about maybe some choices I've made in my dating life, and maybe I should be heightening my expectations of men. And so me and Jerome were having a back and forth conversation, and I'll let Jerome chime in because I feel like he's got some good insight as a man. But when you are a person like me, who's born of a single parent, who's born of generational poverty, who's born from the projects, who's born, basically, I'm not supposed to be where I'm at. You know, I'm a pretty successful person. You know what I mean? I feel like I've done well for myself considering my background, and I'm not statistically living the life that I should be living considering, right? I just feel like I need to be dating men who are more like me. Mm-hmm. Men who have that drive, who have that will, who have that passion to do something for themselves, to care about themselves enough to and increase their lives and enhance their lives. And I feel like me, with my back against the wall, was able to push through all my adversities, get my college degree, get some graduate education, get a career, fight for a career, because I told y'all how I started, right? I didn't plan on becoming a teacher. I quit my job to follow my dream. And I feel like the type of man that I meet, though I love every single man that I've been with, I never have ended a relationship on bad notes, except for my college sweetheart. That was a messed up situation on my end. But it's always been like, I meet these men, they're awesome, they're great, but I have a really hard time with finding men who have the same drive that I have. And it turns out that the reason why they don't is because there's some kind of internal issues, which is fine because people go through those things. But I'm at a point in my life where I've surpassed those things, and I'm kind of ready. I'm ready for a grown man. Does that make sense? Grown. And I feel like I don't know if grown men are lacking these days, or if I'm just not finding the right ones. But yeah, I'm gonna leave that alone. But Ron knows exactly where I'm coming from because we had a full conversation about it. But yeah. Dating as a professional is a mood because and then I have to also recognize that as a black woman, we are the most educated minority group in the country. And a lot of our brothers struggle for one reason or another, and a lot of it is systematic, which I also have to understand. But I don't know where I'm going with this, but I'm gonna stop talking before I dig myself in a hole. But anyway, I'm gonna let Rome talk about it.
It's funny because we both are in the same demographic. We are people that are not supposed to be where we are. Like you said, single mom, bunch of abusive relationships. I will never say my dad wouldn't have been in my life. My dad died when I was 2. No, I don't need the sorry thing because I didn't know him because he died when I was so young.
Right.
I don't feel no ways about it. Not for any particular reason. Right. But even when my sisters were, even when my sisters would talk to me, they would say, my mom and dad would always fight. Their mom and dad would always fight. My mom has always been in these abusive relationships, and whether it's verbal or physical or whatever. I also saw my mom hold down a fort for other men, and then they did her dirty.
Yeah. My mom too.
So one resolution I came to for myself, and this wasn't a revolution that I really saw through until I was a lot older, like in the last maybe when I'm 27 now, like 3 or 4 years, is that I want to be a provider for my family.
Right.
But as a young man, I saw, rap music where women were being disrespected and they had this certain thing. And I saw the relationship my mom and my sisters had, which were always tumultuous, to say the least. Right. And so I thought relationships were like that, but I always felt it was wrong. So I wanted my best to not have those kind of relationships. But my first real relationship in high school would be with Chase's mom, was not so good. We're on good terms now, and you've been friends with me through that whole process of that whole beef. You know the ins and outs. That wasn't good. But around the time that I got my most recent ex, I made a conscious effort and decision that I said my next relationship. Well, I thought it would be my last, but I didn't want it to be like the relationships I saw around me, and we did a good job at that. It was okay. But once I got to that part where I'm breaking, those relationship stereotypes that I witnessed growing up, I wanted something more. So now I'm getting to the point where I can have relationships that feel good, that are emotionally satisfying. For the most part, what's next? Then I want someone who has the same drive of success that I do. That sees the end goal of what creating a family looks like, not just from the, you have kids and you get married and stuff, but career-wise.
Right.
And that was where my last relationship fell short because I didn't think she saw that end goal of like, okay, well, I'm doing something I love. I went to school and I did something I loved. I got there. Teaching music is my passion, but I want you to do what's your passion too.
Right, exactly.
I refuse to be in love with someone that doesn't love what they do.
Right.
And that's not something I can do for you. When that was a hang up with my ex, we tried a lot of things to get her to at least get on that path, and she didn't want to, get there. And that was one thing that to me it became a why am I always at a loss for words today? It became one of those non-negotiables for me.
Yes.
It became negotiable.
Yes.
That even if you're not there, that I needed you to be working to get there.
Right.
So,
exactly. And that's the thing. That's the thing. I feel like if I'm with the person, I feel like everything that I need to know about that person.
Totally passion over pay. I believe in it.
I believe in it too.
If I wanted to, I could be doing other things besides teaching music. Trust me. It's nothing. I'm a very talented young man, and I didn't mean to cut you off, but I saw that comment. I had to say something.
Yeah,
I'm a young man. I have a lot of skills that I could have went to college and honed, but I was passionate about something. That's what I wanted to do. Right. I don't want to be rich. I don't care about being rich.
Right.
I want to live comfortably, and I want to have a family that lives comfortably, and they realize that you don't have to be greedy. You don't have to be rich. You don't have to sacrifice your happiness to have a good life.
Right.
And there are too many people in specifically the Black community who think that. I remember it was a big point of contention with me and my mom. She was like, "Why do you want to major in music? What are you going to do in music?" And I was like, "Well, I can teach, but even more than I can teach, I list down all these things I could do in music." She was like, "I don't think that's a good idea." Talk to her now.
Yeah.
My baby got a master's degree in music. Like my
baby,
you're a master. She won't stop talking about me now.
Yeah.
Because at 27, my mom is 50 now, and she doesn't make near what I make. I make okay money. Not I'm pretty sure I could be making more money doing something else.
I mean, you're a teacher, so we ain't out here balling out of control, but we get a little something.
So yes, passion over pay. I'd take passion over pay any day, like literally any day. Sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off, but
it's all good because it goes into the whole topic of.
And I want whoever I'm with to have that same mindset because,
exactly.
Even if your passion doesn't make as much money and my passion doesn't make as much money, our passion together makes enough money that we can afford for our family.
Right. And my thing has always been, because my stepmother, the one that my father married, she always told me and my step siblings, if you're dating somebody that has no goals, no passions, that apathy is going to reflect in your relationship. And that is the realest thing I've ever heard, and it has stuck with me through all of my adulthood.
Yep.
Because I feel like in some of the relationships that I've had, if you don't have a sense of direction for yourself, you're not really going to have a sense of direction for everything else around you because you're lost. You know what I'm saying? So it's like, I feel like that's key to me. Maybe it's just my experience here.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree with you.
But I just feel like where I'm in my life, being as old as I am, it's no longer acceptable to meet men who don't have a direction. Like, I'm not saying you got to be the full package, because I wasn't the full package until just a couple of years ago. And yep. I feel like even still I'm not the full package, because there's some things I'm still working on right now, like trying to get my student loan situation together so I can go back and finish my master's. Trying to freaking do that so I can get a house. Like, there's still things that I got in the tuck that is not even close to being to the finish line. But my thing is, you need to be working towards something, bro. You gotta have a passion. You gotta have a goal. You gotta have something, because
Mm-hmm.
I feel like the energy needs to match. If my energy, I'm a go-getter.
Mm-hmm.
I like to be on the move. I like to get things done. If you don't match that energy, I feel like we're not equally yoked at that point. And that's a problem for me. Like,
Mm-hmm.
anyway, so dating as a professional, for me, has been a struggle because I have a hard time finding men that have the same will and the same job that I have. And I tend to find that the men that I have dated, we are just not linked on that level.
Mm-hmm.
So, that's
And
where
you know
I'm
what's
at.
another thing for me? Um, Outside of who I'm talking to now, a lot of women I've met in between my last relationship and moving into um, what I'm pursuing now. The young lady I'm talking to now. I'm saying young lady. She's just a year younger than me. Uh, uh, I've met a lot of women who were college graduates, and still it wasn't like they had the degree, but they didn't have. It was there was still like they had the degree, they had the job, but they didn't have the passion, and I could feel it.
Right.
They like they. So that's why I say even that's why I say even if you're not making a lot of money, I would rather you do something you enjoy because I I don't want to come home from work and every day you talking about how you hate your job and you
Oh,
wish you,
that's key.
I want to, I don't mind you saying, hey, I had a bad day at work,
Yeah.
or I don't even mind you saying, hey, I've been having some bad, a bad string of months or weeks at work and I think I need to move somewhere else, work wise. But I don't want you to say, I hate this job, but I'm doing it because it's good money or I'm
It's
doing it because I need
key.
to do it.
Let
Nope.
me
I want
tell you, the day, not to cut you out, but the day that I lived my purpose was like an aha moment. The moment I stepped foot in my classroom and I got the groove of teaching, and my life is so much better now because I have peace when I go to bed at night.
Mm-hmm.
And nothing beats that peace when you know that you are living your purpose.
Mm-hmm. So, and one thing I enjoy with the chick I'm talking to now is that while she's not graduated from college yet, we're working on it, and well, she's working on it, not we're working on it, but I'm supporting her. I'm cheerleading. Um, she works in the field that she wants to be in, and I always like talking to her, and she has like, even when we talk on the phone, she just has glow, and that I can tell, and I can tell, and that's like the most attractive thing. Like when you say, you know, I did this and I love that I did this today. Or she had a bad day at work because she works with
Yeah.
animals. She say, I saw this pet die and it made me really sad. It made me really sad.
Right.
Even that.
Yeah.
What's up, Henry? But that's what I want to hear. I don't want to hear every day I hate my job and I wish I could go to school but I can't. No,
Right.
put on your bootstraps and do what you need to do and even realize that. And I tell people this, and this is almost veering off, but college may not be the answer, but there's many other ways to get into that, your field.
Absolutely.
Like I tell people, if I wanted to be a performer, I didn't have to go to college to be a jazz musician.
Right.
College may help, but all I had to do was put 10,000 hours on the instrument. Or if you know what the 10,000 hour theory is, Chariot Man, you should know because you're a coach, so you should know the 10,000 hour theory. You should probably know too, Nia. It's basically a theory that you can be a master at anything if you practice good practice for 10,000 hours.
Yeah.
That's what it states. All I had to do was practice on my instrument if I wanted to do that, and I could be in Hollywood performing with the greats.
Right.
I could be my saxophone instructor in college toured with Lauryn Hill, and my other saxophone instructor in college. He went. Who did he go off? Was he performing with Bruno Mars? My college band director, he used to play with Earth, Wind, and Fire. He
wow.
he used to play with Earth, Wind, and Fire in the 70s. He had stories. I won't tell those stories on stream because he told us not to tell those stories. Some of those stories are some of those are
They're
wild.
explicit.
Yeah, they're wild. But there are many different avenues to do what you want to do, and college isn't always the answer.
Yeah.
And I remember my college professor telling somebody that he was like, "Why are you in school?" He was like, "Because," and the kid was like, "I want to be a professional saxophonist." He was like, so why are you in school? You don't have to go to school to do that. And like, I looked at him, I was like, why would you tell somebody that? You're a teacher. You're supposed to be telling them to stay in school.
Yeah.
But then a few years later, now that I'm a teacher, I realized that college isn't that, always that answer. But anyway, I say that to say, that even, if you're not going to be a college graduate, like I don't have you got to be this tall to ride this ride. You got to have this level of education,
right.
To date. You need to be saying, all right, if I want to start a business or if I want to be an entrepreneur or I want to do this, how can I do that? College isn't my thing. Okay, so what else can I do to get there?
Right.
There are many different avenues. There's more than one way to skin a goat. I think that's how to say it goes.
Skin a cat.
Oh, whatever. You know what I meant. So I say that to say, like, just dating, and then even getting past the, like, after you find someone part, because we just talked about just finding someone one part. But once you get past finding someone, like once you find someone, I know for me, and I'm pretty sure Nick can say the same thing. Schedules.
Schedules as a teacher are
like, I know for me as a band director, and I teach middle school, so right now, my schedule isn't that intense.
Yeah.
But next year when I'm teaching high school, and I got to deal with marching band, the jazz ensemble, the principal wants us to perform everywhere, late night rehearsals, football games, basketball games, spring concerts, winter concerts, middle school tours. Once I start doing that, and like, I know a lot of music teachers for that reason, they tend to not marry, because their significant others can't really understand that workload. Mm-hmm. My high school band directors, my first two in high school before I moved to Georgia, both of them were single, male and a female. Both were black. They were both single. I moved to Georgia, my high school band director. Then I'm gonna text him. I gotta tell him thank you again for just because he is in a relationship now. But I know a lot of music teachers who are single because either they don't know how to manage their time to make time for a family,
or how to manage my time. I'm a success.
Or a person doesn't know how to, their significant other doesn't know how to deal with that time commitment. And I'm pretty sure the same thing is in elementary land, because one thing I know about elementary teachers, like, you can say all they got to do is do this, but literally in talking to you, I know this, and talking to my other friends, literally that teach elementary, they come in early in the morning to set up stations and do all kinds of crazy stuff.
Yes. And we teach every subject, so yeah. But I'll talk about that once you finish talking, because that's a mood.
And I remember that when I was doing my subbing at a high school before I got my first teaching job, I was a sub in a band room, and I was actually the director of bands as a sub. So I was taking kids on trips. I planned their spring concert. I took them to their performance festival, their adjudication, and I did it by myself. Like, technically it was illegal. They could have gotten in trouble. I could have gotten in trouble, and they could have gotten in trouble. They found that I took these kids, out of the building.
Yeah.
But I did all of that, and I remember my girlfriend at the time, she used to just be mad at me. And she was like, you come in late at night, you leave early in the morning, or when you do come home in a reasonable time, you don't feel like spending time with me, you're sleepy. She at one point, she was like, yo, even if you were tired or you didn't feel like talking, like, you haven't even been on Discord talking with your homies. She was like, it's not even just like me. You don't even talk to your friends. And I was like, well, yeah, this comes with the territory, of what I want to do. So I
got some stories related to that also. Yeah.
And like, she did a lot. She would like, all right, well, she would go get me lunch. She would come meet me in my office and we'd have lunch. And sometimes she'd try to do stuff like that. And I wasn't always receptive sometimes. I would admit that. I wasn't always receptive. And so one of my plans is, I know that transitioning to high school and teaching high school and doing marching band and Tiger King, you play trumpet. I don't know if you were in a core style or traditional show style band, but if you know about anything about show style band, the performance and the need to learn and do a lot of stuff is big. So I'm hoping that I learn how to manage that time, and that they didn't give you that pay grade. No, oh no, they didn't. They didn't because I was a sub. Now they will, but at the time they didn't. But I'm hoping that this first year I can find that balance of being an educator and wanting to build a family and build a relationship. That's what I'm hoping to find this year.
When you move into this new position, that's a whole different ballgame. That's high school.
Yep.
Like, there's so much that goes into that. Like, I had friends who were in our high school band when I was in high school, and it's so much for the students. So I could imagine it's double that for the teacher.
Yep. And I was talking to my college band director, and he was like, and because I talked to him about it. I haven't even talked to him since I got the job. I need to call him and talk to him because I know he's going to have some words for me of encouragement or somewhat not encouragement because there'll be a lot of curse words too. But one thing he told me is that if you take that job, if they offer it to you, because I told him I was interested, he was like, I think you should do it. But he was like, it's going to be less about teaching and it's going to be less about that. And it's going to be more about what school, Tiger King? Because I'm from Georgia. I'm from, and I went to Florida A&M. But one thing he said was that it's going to be more about performing, and that's what they're going to want to see, and that's going to be a lot of time sinking. You're going to have to learn how to manage that time. And my high school director was like me, or he was worse than me. When he was my age, he had already had 5 children.
Yeah.
And he was already a college professor, director, the whole band, had been through Southwest DeKalb. So you might know some of my friends, Tiger King. Because I went to school in Macon, Georgia, but I went to FAMU, so I know a lot of people from Southwest DeKalb. I have a friend who came up to Morgan, and she was in Southwest DeKalb. Anyway, we can have that conversation. You can follow me on Twitter. We can have that conversation. But one thing he would tell me is that he didn't learn how to do that until he got much older. And he was like, you need to learn it while you're young. Or else you won't have that.
Right. I know for me, as far as like the whole other side of actually being in a relationship as a teacher, because right now I'm just talking about how right now, my situation right now. But when I was in a relationship, my previous relationship, like my first year teaching was so hard, like, and then I had a trash team on top of that. So I was literally preparing everything by myself. And when you're an elementary school teacher, you teach all subjects, especially K through 2 in my district. So you're teaching all subjects, right? So that's reading, writing, social studies, math, science. And then we also have a socio-emotional curriculum that we have to teach. So we're teaching everything. So getting stations together, getting materials together, like getting my lessons together. I was doing that all by myself because my team was just so bootleg. Anyway, so I'm so serious, Jerome. My team was so bootleg, honey. Okay? Like everything I was doing, it was by myself. And so, because my team lead was one of those like veteran teachers who wanted to do everything by herself, so she wasn't like getting everybody together. Anyway, so we'll talk about that in a whole other podcast because your team can make or break you, especially when you teach the core subjects.
Oh anyway,
yeah. So I was coming home at maybe 5 or 6 o'clock, possibly every day.
That's not even that bad. I ain't even gonna lie. That's all right.
It sounds like it's not, but it's exhausting when you've literally been at school for 12 hours. So it's like I'm working 12-hour days every day. And then when I get home...
7.5.
Huh?
I said we only get paid for 7.5.
Yes. And so when I get home, I'm exhausted. And so my boyfriend at the time, like one day he straight up told me, he was like, do you just like not coming home to me? Like, do you stay at work long so you don't have to come home to me? And I'm just like... That broke my heart that he felt like that because like it was never my intention. It's just that it was so hard. And honestly, I think that's not the whole reason why my last relationship ended, but I really do feel like we were having some issues that we were not really talking about in full because of my schedule. You know what I mean? Like, I wasn't really focused on my relationship as much as I should have been because of everything that I was dealing with at school. And then not only was I working up at school, making preparations and everything for 12 hours, I would then have to go home and lesson plan. You know what I mean? So he felt hella neglected.
Right.
So I definitely feel like that was a really hard time for that particular relationship. But I'm thankful now because I work with an amazing team. We plan together, we prepare together, we get stations together for everybody. So we can go home at 3:30 and 4 o'clock. Like my team, my current team is awesome. And I felt like if I had a boyfriend right now, that wouldn't be an issue with my current relationship.
Mm-hmm.
But you, I don't know what your schedule gonna look like. Because, like, as far as I know, you guys don't really have, like, a team in the way that we have a team.
Right.
So that's gonna be interesting how you balance that.
The good thing and the bad thing, I think I told you about this. The school that I'm working at, it's two schools in one building. They were traditionally brother and sister schools.
Yeah.
The school that I'll be teaching at, they became co-ed a long time ago, but the other side, which is the all girls school, is still all girls. So we do marching band together. Oh, right. So I'll have a co-director. And I know the co-director because I used to work with that school a long time ago.
Yeah, so y'all can collab and figure out how to work smarter and not harder. That's perfect.
Yeah, so we've already talked about it because she has a husband and she has a kid. And one thing she's very vocal to me about, she was like, yo, I want to be able to go home to my kid and I want to go home to my husband and I want to be able to do this and that. And I hear her. And I don't want to make that mistake a lot of young band directors do where they devote 1 trillion hours and then, you know, they don't have anything to show for it from a family side.
Right.
And granted, the person I'm talking to now, she's also a musician, so she knows like that whole thing with being a teacher. She's a trumpet player, so she knows that whole jazz. But at the same time, because I have a kid young, and I don't have. It's not that I don't have any children. I want to make sure that I too am home at a reasonable time, and I too get to have as much time with my son as I want to. You know.
Yeah.
So I don't mind. I don't mind putting in hours. I don't mind 10, 11, and 12-hour work days, but I can't do it every day of every week for 190 days, you know?
Yes, absolutely not. That was my life all last year. That was my
especially,
life.
Especially with what people don't know is that teachers get paid on a salary. Yes. So any extra hours we do, we don't get paid for.
Absolutely not.
So salary and it's X amount of dollars. I'm not going to put out exactly how much I get paid, but it's X amount of dollars. You know, I don't get more money for doing more work.
Right.
So very realistically, there are people who teach different subjects that aren't music, and they're on the same pay scale as pay scale as I do, and they get paid the same.
Right.
You know, sometimes music teachers do, and just like coaches, we get extra stipends too.
Oh, word?
But still,
let me switch my
those stipends are nowhere near, you know, the work we put in.
Yeah.
It's like one extra check, to be completely honest.
Oh, I got you.
It is literally just one extra check onto the, you know, tacked on. That's how much money it feels like. Because when I did my math for my stipend I got last year, and I need to contact somebody about my stipend for this year because I would have had it by now. I need my money. I don't care about this whole thing going on. I still did my 2 after-school bands, and I still did my performances.
You better get your check, boo. What?
Yeah.
Get your money.
Even as a middle school director, I was active. I had a middle school jazz band. I didn't have a marching band, but I had a middle school pep band, and we performed at basketball games. And I still did a whole bunch of other stuff. So I want my stipend money because my principal required that. She didn't require, but she encouraged that if you, as a teacher, if you didn't have a club after school, that you at least help with someone else's club. And I did 2 clubs on my own. I did a jazz band and a pep band. Even though I had an orchestra teacher and a course teacher that could help me, and they did nothing after school, I stayed after school 2 days a week for kids who want to do extra stuff in music. And I had a good participation with it. So, but yeah, I do want to make sure that, you know, moving into the future, my relationships don't feel neglected, you know, and my son doesn't feel neglected. I don't want him to say, well, he turned 18, you know.
No, my dad never spent time with me. He was always so focused on his work and.
Yeah, I don't want that. So, I want to find that balance, and I know the first year and probably the second year is going to be rough about it, you know, getting that balance together.
Yeah.
But so finding someone who can work with, is willing to work with your schedule, and then find someone that you're compatible with that's not dry. Those two things are hard. As an educator, then I think at the same time, I think people don't like to hear teachers talk about their students, all the time. Because I remember with my ex, I one day she was like, "Are you going to talk about something else?" Because I was just talking about my.
Wow.
Well, she wasn't literally like that, but she would like
heard that one before. That's funny.
She wasn't literally like that, but she would try to change the subject. Like, okay, you're talking about your kids, but
to be fair, as teachers, I feel like we do tend to really invest our whole selves into our job to where it kind of becomes like a personality trait,
a part of us. Yes,
So
exactly.
I can totally understand that at the same time. Like sometimes I gotta remember, like I'm a teacher, but that is not my life. Yep. I do still have a life outside of this career, even though this career is a big part of my life. But we are reaching the 2-hour mark, so I think we need to go ahead and wrap this up. Yeah, we have these conversations all the time, so we can literally just keep talking.
We could.
But for the sake of the stream, we want to go ahead, and I think we should go ahead and wrap it up. If people want to get if there are people in the chat who have questions or comments that you guys want me to highlight, this would be the time to do that.
Yeah, someone said they were in a teacher certification program now. I'm gonna go up and see if I can find it.
Probably Chariot, because I know Chariot Man said he wants to be a coach.
Yeah, but I don't think it was him. I don't think he's in Quanteo 6.
Oh, Quanteo 6 said
I knew Chariot. I knew Chariot was because I've
Chariot talks about that all the time. He's very passionate about wanting to be a coach.
Yeah, so
that's good.
I know him, but somebody else.
Me and Jerome gonna talk about that on another topic too, about engaged teachers, people who are passionate about their job. We need more teachers out here who are actually passionate about their job and actually care about having a positive impact on their students. Mm-hmm. We'll talk about that another topic though, child, because that's a whole topic.
Yeah. Yo, this was fun. Like
I like this.
I wish we just did this sooner. How often are we gonna do this? I don't think we ever figured that out. I mean, but we already here.
We talk about it off. But I feel like we had a lot of pretty good engagement, so I think that's a successful first episode. I think.
So I need to get, because I guess I gotta fire up the old YouTube because I want to engage too. So I'm gonna do more stuff to engage with people.
Right.
If you've been in the podcast, follow me on Twitter. I know some of you already follow me. Like I know Solo and I know Cherry and I know Henry. There was some other people in here whose names I recognize. But if you haven't followed me, I do follow people back. Who else is in here? I don't know if any people are still here. They're not talking, but yeah, follow me. I'm pretty vocal. I've been tweeting more lately, especially since I've been riled up emotionally about the whole thing, about what's going on. And I usually try to frequent Nia's streams when I see her live. If I'm not in the stream, she be trying to get me to come up in her streams all the time. So like, come on, Sax, come up in. I'm like,
yeah. Like OG homies, I be happy when my OG homies are around because I feel like y'all know me, y'all know my journey, y'all are a part of me and what I do. So I'll be excited when y'all come through with the heat. Like, speaking of heat, Henry just said, "Give him that heat, Sax." But anyway, I don't see any questions in the chat, so I think that we should go ahead and wrap it up. You have any last things you want to say, Jerome, before we hop up out of here?
Thanks to everybody for coming out. I'm really happy with the engagement we got. We got a lot of really good engagement, and I like that.
Yeah.
So I'm really excited to do this again. Like seriously,
yeah.
It was fun talking, and it was fun. Like, cause these are this feels like a normal conversation with us. Like,
right. Like this is just conversations that we just have off top, off the hip. So
this is like when we play Dauntless and we stop playing.
Right. So it's so natural and so normal. It doesn't even feel like it's been 2 hours for me. So it's like, hey, I'm cool. I like these types of conversations because, talking about gaming is cool, but sometimes I just want to talk about like grown folk stuff. You know what I'm saying? Like talk about some actual like legitimate real topics.
And like it's so fun to get this stuff out because it's like stuff that we say to each other and it's stuff that I talk with to my other teacher friends.
Yeah.
But non-teacher people don't really get to hear this side all the time. Right. So it's fun that people are listening. They're like interested and they're like, wow.
That's the best part. Whoever thought that people would actually care about what teachers have to say about anything? Am I right?
Right. Right.
But anyways, you guys, thank you guys so much for coming to hang out with us. I'm glad that you guys were involved and engaged. I've seen a lot of comments about how you guys really appreciate the dialogue of today's podcast. So we definitely gonna come back and do this again. # Teachers in Quarantine. If you really enjoyed this, talk about us on Twitter and let us know how much you enjoyed the cast. And hopefully the next time we do this, it won't be as depressing in light of current events. So hopefully we have some more positive. We tried to keep it as positive as possible, but hopefully we have a little bit more light in the next one. We tried to keep it as lighthearted as we possibly could. But sometimes when things are going on, we got to talk about it. We Black, we can't pretend that this stuff don't exist. Like, that's just really the fact of the matter. So, anyways, we out of here. Peace out. And y'all have an amazing weekend.
2Ks. If you know, you know.
If you know, you know.
Oh, that was a frat thing. I don't know.
All right. I'm ending it. Bye, y'all.
All right. See y'all.